Episode of the Racers podcast. Today we are with Adrian Archie, entrepreneur and former NFL player.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Good, how
Nice
are
to be
you?
here.
Thanks for coming. So, first off, you played in the NFL, and the CFL, Canadian Football League. So, that's a big deal. What did it take to get there, you could say? Like,
A lot of hours. I started playing football when I was 6 years old. I'm 43 now, so this was 20 years ago when I stopped playing in 2005. But played from the ages of 6 years old to about 25-ish. And when you really think about it, football games don't last that long. And most guys play one side of the ball, maybe some special teams. So you get, if you're lucky, 40, 50 plays a game. But you practice year in and year out in the off season, during season, lifting weights. So when you think about the number of hours you put in to get to year 16, 17 of a football career, a lot of work goes into it. You know, the wins and losses and the trophies and the accolades, you know, there's something that you can keep with you as you grow, but the work is really what lasts, in my opinion. So it's thousands of hours of work.
yeah.
For sure.
What was the major difference between like the CFL and the American football? Because the field is different. You have an extra 10 yards, and even the end zones are 10 yards bigger. Pretty sure. So
Exactly. So the field's bigger. You get the end zones are, I believe, 20 yards deep, and they're a little in the field that's 60 yards wide versus an American field that's 50 yards wide and 100 yards long. The Canadian field is a little longer. It has two 50-yard lines. It also has a bigger end zone, and the field's wider, and it's three downs versus four. So definitely a lot more running. It's 12 men on the field, and rather than 11 like American football, and then also all of the offensive backs and receivers can go in motion before the play. So it's different from that aspect, but the mechanics of the game are the same. You're still blocking and tackling and catching. So it's the same in that aspect. And then they have some rules that are a little bit different as far as how many Canadian players versus non-Canadian players that can be on a starting roster on a game day.
oh really?
After that, pretty simple.
Okay. How? So you went from playing in the CFL to in the NFL to selling medical devices. How big of a that's a pretty big leap, one would think, between different industries and career paths. So did you find anything that was with playing football that kind of went along with medical devices?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So it's funny. Most people don't realize the medical devices. So, and the reason I know you guys as your professor, Mr. Pullman, is I worked with him in the medical device industry. It's an industry that's full of athletes. Most people don't realize that in medical devices. So you have pharmaceutical sales that are like drugs to a physician when you go to the doctor. Then you have biotech salesmen that are doing more like diagnostic tests and vaccines and things like that. And then you have medical device reps that do anything that's sold in a hospital from an equipment standpoint, from beds and stretchers all the way to surgical stuff. So I sold drills and saws for brain and spine surgery. But when you look at it, it's full of athletes because it's very similar to football. You need to be competitive. You need to be able to work in a team environment. You need to be able to be a self-starter. You need to be you need to have that drive that an athlete has to always want to win, because it's a medical device is a very well-paying job, but very competitive and stressful. So it's very similar to athletics. So when you look at it, I left college and after playing football pro for a few years, sales makes a lot of sense for former athletes, especially if you've been able to play in college and play at a higher level. And really get down to it, going from more than just a game to it becomes a profession. And even before you professional, if you're at a decent sized college playing football, I mean, you're a professional player because you have a life, you have football, you have a lot of things that go into being successful as a college athlete. So, I mean, at that point, you're doing more than just playing a game. It's almost a job at that point, especially if you're on scholarship. So, it's a good contrast, well, a good parallel career path for college athletes that I would recommend is sales in general, and especially device sales. It fits.
Yeah. Speaking of Professor Pullman, he told me today that you guys lived together at one point. He lived in your basement, right? And he told me.
In my basement, but we were roommates
Yeah,
in
you were
a house
roommates.
that he was in the basement. I was in one of the bedrooms, and then the guy that lived there, that owned it, lived there as well.
Yeah, he told me that you're a pretty big NASCAR fan.
Huge. I'm from Concord, North Carolina. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
you, I mean, I saw this as sports marketing, right? Or racing marketing, right?
Yep, I'm motorsport marketing. That's my degree.
Yeah. If you know, NASCAR is based in Concord, so
Yeah.
that's where I grew up. So I grew up. I was a huge Dale Earnhardt fan, and then when he passed, I moved to Dale Jr. So, and now he's not racing. I don't really have a driver anymore, but I'm a car racing fan in general, but NASCAR for sure.
Okay. Do you? He told me and him got in a little argument this morning about NASCAR drivers and if they're athletes or not. So as a
Sure.
okay, I was wondering as a former athlete if you believe that they're athletes too.
Athletes. So when you look at it, you take for instance, and I guess I play linebacker, so most people can't. If you didn't play football or didn't play on defense, or especially play linebacker, it's hard to identify with it. But if you take a receiver, for instance, or a quarterback, you take a Peyton Manning who's in the Super Bowl, and it's a hostile environment. The crowd is loud. There's a bunch of competing fans there, and he has to get the play, make the checks, see everything going on, make the right checks. The receivers have to get the check. It's loud. Everybody's focused to a point where even 70,000 fans and millions looking on TV and all the pressure of that moment that they work their life up to, it requires a ton of focus, not just muscles and jumping and running. It requires a focus that the receiver can zoom in on that ball in the air and catch it when all these fans are cheering and yelling, and the pressure of dropping it and the Super Bowl on the line and all of these things. That pressure is what requires you to become a professional, right? That's what the thousands of hours are for. So running and jumping isn't, in my opinion, being a professional athlete isn't the only part of athletics. As a matter of fact, most people can run and jump probably fast enough to play a pro sport. To be honest with you, it's the other parts of it, the mindset, the being able to focus, the control chaos, literally running into people at full speed, but in control of your emotions and yourself. So that's racing. If you've ever raced, and I'm sure you have, if you like racing, if you've been on a kart, it's about hitting marks on the track, right?
Yep.
It's about hitting consistently under pressure, 200 miles per hour, and 4 hours in, and it's hot out, and it's 200 degrees. That's football. That's athletics. That's focus. And then too, honestly, I mean, I do endurance kart races every now and then. They're like an hour and 30 minutes long. When you get off that kart, if you're not in shape, even if you're in shape, I mean, I have to get a massage a couple days later. I'm shaking. It's intense. So they're not running and jumping and tackling people or spiking the ball in volleyball or dunking the ball in basketball, but they're absolutely as focused and as conditioned to do what they do at the highest level that other people can't do. And in my opinion, that's athletic.
I'll show him that clip next time I have him in class. And
He knows it. We've had that argument before. He knows it. He knows the truth.
For NHRA.
Look at it. The concept
Supercars.
That Marcus Ambrose and all those guys come from. I forget what is it?
Cars.
Supercars.
Yep.
I love the off-road stuff. I'm just not much in drag racing though.
Okay. On a different note, you built this company, Pet. Where did that originate from? Like, what caused you to be like, I'm going to leave the medical device industry and create my own pet brand?
Great question. I'm sorry, cut you off.
I said, and create this pet brand company that is, I'm pretty sure, is a hard industry to get into, right?
Yeah, man, everything's hard in my opinion, and I think that's what the point of the work, right, is that even in winning or losing. I mean, I had a lot of losses, so I started this I wanted to be a vet all of my life, so in college I actually started pre-vet and ended up switching my major to psychology and graduating with a psych degree. But always had the love of animals. Worked at vets in high school in order to go to vet school, even though I didn't do it. So after being in the devices 10 years and having somewhat of a bad experience there at the end with the boss and just leaving in a way I didn't really appreciate. I wish it didn't work that way, but it did. I didn't want to start over in another company. So I decided to go and be an entrepreneur 10 years ago. And it made sense for me to do what my passion was at the time. And that is pets, is animals. So I started that company because of that. I'm a nerd as well as a jock. So when you look at it and you ask the question initially, like, how do you jump from football to surgery and standing in brain surgery every day and cadaver labs? Well, I'm a big believer that skills translate, right? And football athletics goes directly to sales, especially the high level sales like brain surgery. When you're talking to extremely intelligent people, they go to college for like 16 years, let alone school in general. Um, Entrepreneurship translates well to being an athlete, and then learning how to run a business. I learned from medical devices, not necessarily running a business, but how to market, how to prospect, how to grow, how to service the customers, and things I definitely had to learn as a small business owner that I learned by trial and error, unfortunately. But that's the way I learned. But that's why I did it. It's just my lifelong passion with pets, and also seeing a need in the market. The pet industry is always healthy, right? It's a healthy industry to be in. So as I've grown the company, here we are at 10 years. 2 years ago, we started franchising. So I pivoted from being a retailer and being in the store every day to selling my concept to other entrepreneurs that want to get into the pet industry. And the concept we created gives more access to people and allows them to do it and not as expensive as it normally would be to do a pet concept. And we're having some success. So we have our first few locations open, but it started with just the passion in pets, and then passion for people as well. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, right? So the opportunity, I get to combine two things I love, and it's animals and people. Nice. And help them both.
Do you want to expand on what Pet in Mind is for those who are viewing with us today?
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. So the initial idea is a brick and mortar, and brick and mortar everybody is scared of from a retail perspective because e-commerce. But one of the areas that is still safe and people still desire to have locally is pet concept. So we're a small box concept, and basically what we do is all quality natural food and treats. Believe it or not, most pet food, dog and cat especially, aren't very good quality, even the big stuff that you see on TV. So we carry all high quality, but we also understand it very well, and we can help people with nutrition, which has been the biggest challenge that people have with their pets. So we carry quality. We are able to help and guide people along the way from a puppy to a senior dog or kitten to a senior cat. And then we also have a service portion of the business that allows you to bring your pet in and wash them and clean them and give them good hygiene, as well as coupled with the nutrition. Now, that's the concept as it started. We're almost 10 years old. About 7.5 year standpoint, I pivoted and franchised the concept right around when COVID hit, actually. So now I've gone from being in the store and helping people with their pet's nutrition to now I'm helping people start the business Pet in Mind as a franchisor, their franchisees, and then they start the business, and I support them in growing to whatever they want to do, whether it be multiple locations or branching out into different areas of the pet industry. So I took the concept from actually being the guy doing it to now helping people do it.
Yeah. So you went from being in the retail end of it all the time, and now you're working with your franchisees more. Do you?
Yeah. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Cut you off a lot.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, man, finish your question.
So, do you miss the more retail end, or are you happy where you're at with the franchisee part?
Yeah, for sure, man. I joke. I seriously joke when so I'm matching up. So I'm back in selling, right? I'm asking people for their life savings in order to start a business that they're passionate about, right? And me support them do it. So I go back to medical device sales. I'm selling big ticket things, so it fits there. I can be competitive. I have competition. I have to find the people that want to do this and support them. I'm an emotional intelligence coach because I love helping people. I love to see people succeed. It's one of my passions, so it fits well with me creating an opportunity that people that maybe not been able to afford to or had the capacity to be a business owner now have a franchise concept that's in a very healthy industry that grows through COVID and recessions. And they have the access and the support to do it. It's my passion. So I actually love the part that I'm doing now. I like to sell, I like people, I like to be out and about, and I like to help people, and that's what I'm able to do, as well as the pets. Whereas the retail, I was never a great retailer. As a matter of fact, I tell people that you're buying my mistakes. Like, I made all the mistakes in the world, starting the concept from scratch and learning what and what not to do, and what it should look like, and what things should cost, and what the story is, and everything else. I'm good at that end of it. I'm not an administrator at all. And a retail business requires you to be on top of things. And that's just not my strength, my wheelhouse. And that's the benefit, if other college students are listening, that's the benefit of doing different things and not being afraid to pivot and get into different things in your life and in your career, is because it gives you experience to, number one, do other things and handle the pressure of it, but also understand that things translate, and you can always do something else that may seem like a different industry, a different way, but find your passion in it and end up knowing what you're really good at and what you're not great at, and that way you can always stay on the right tracks, right? And I don't put myself in bad positions.
So what does your day-to-day look like? Because you have Pet in Mind that you run, but then you also are a coach to people who are wanting to be your franchisee and, want to be in business. So, like, what's your day-to-day usually?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a great question. So when you look at it now, we're merging franchise, and what that basically means, and that's an actual real term, is that we're growing through our first 10 locations. So we have 4 now. We should have 6 by the mid next year. So on one hand, a big part, especially as I'm growing my team out, it takes people to do what we're doing. So right now, I'm still wearing a lot of hats as I hire people to help me take hats away. So part of it is, as we get leads, I reach out to people. If it's a warm lead and they fit us and they're seriously interested in not just kicking the tires, then I pass them on to my sales manager, who takes them farther on in the process. I support current franchisees and they're worried about their marketing. I also have new franchisees that will help them find their location. So a bunch of different things right now. Yeah, I'm able to do it because I've done a lot of things and I have the capability to do it. But yeah, the goal for me right now is, as I scale what I do, the main goal right now is, one, raise money. I need to raise some capital in order to support what I'm growing into, and then 2, hiring a few people to run the ship so I can focus more. But we're getting there, right? You got to we had to get locations. First, we put the plan together, and then we had to make it real. I'm the first African American to franchise successfully in the pet industry, and not that that means anything other than we had to make people believe us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had to get some locations, and now we're getting them open. That was a process. Once we found the people, and now that we're getting some open out, it's real, and we can really market and get down to growing and seeing what we can do with this.
Yeah. So what caused you to do Pet in Mind? Was it a pet or you had, or what made you just take that step to do it, you could say?
Yeah, man. So good question. So it's actually 2 things. I had a cat named Rocco who recently died. He was 18.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He died about a year and a half ago. But he had a lot of nutrition issues when I got him back in, actually right when I started as Striker, believe it or not. Not right when I started, about a year and a half after I started, and I got my first sales territory. I got Rocco, and he had a lot of nutrition issues, and it was the pet food was still junk. There's a lot of innovation in nutrition, pet nutrition now, but back then it wasn't. So when I decided to leave medical devices, it was, do I stay in the end? Well, decided to leave the company I was with. It was either, do I stay in the industry and start over in another company, because I had been with that company for a decade, or do I go do something new? My wife at the time and myself, we decided to be entrepreneur. We still had the safety of her in America, and it was a good time to do it. So I did it because I knew that people needed help with pet nutrition. It was starting to be better options. It was a lot of innovation, and I could sell things to neurosurgeons, right? Neurosurgeons literally go to college for 16, 17 years. College, not high school, elementary, middle school. College, that's 17 years. So when you're able to break information down to highly intelligent people like that, selling pet food and breaking information down and helping people understand pet nutrition, because vets really don't do nutrition, and that's why it's a need for it, made a lot of sense for my background and what I like to do. And then the risk of it is I like to race. I'm a former athlete. You know, I'm probably less risk averse than the average person. So here I am.
Yeah. So, I mean, the with pet food, I agree. A lot of it's junk essentially because you don't know where it's made most of the time and all that. And I even see on social media that like a lot of people are going to a raw diet for dogs essentially. So is that like something you incorporate, or is it all like what kind of food is it
So
for?
we don't make any. Well, at this point, we don't make any of our own products. We're working on some things. So we sell other brands, but primarily things that you're not going to get in a grocery store. No, definitely not. Big box, meaning like a PetSmart, a Petco. You may have a few things that we sell in there, but in most cases we're differentiated. So online or either us. Yes, you have different. So traditionally, when you look at dog food or cat food, most people think of either dry in a bag, kibble,
Yep.
or in a can, right? That's traditional. Well, that's, as of the last decade or so, that started to change. Now you have that still there. You're better quality now. The pet industry doesn't have very high standards as far as what things mean to us. They can really say anything and it means nothing. But in the industry, it's very specific definitions. And that's what consumer doesn't know. And because of that, companies can put darn near whatever they want in the bag as long as it fits the back end definition of what it means to the industry. And that's how they get away with putting absolutely anything in the bag. So it gets down to the brand and the trust and the source of things, just like you said. So you now have the category raw food. You have lightly cooked food. You have still the dry food that's just the better quality source. You have canned now that is better. It's not just something cooked in a big vat. So now what you see is better quality and transparency that's starting to happen. Now that doesn't mean it's every brand. There's still primarily a lot of junk out there, and that's why you have to go to a source like Pet and Mind or other small specialty type store online to find the quality stuff. But the problem is that quality isn't hard to find anymore. It's the ability for people to help you apply the quality in the right way. Vets don't really do pet nutrition. They don't have time to do it. It's not in their wheelhouse. They don't really do it in vet school. Whereas pet nutrition is 70-80% of a pet's life, right? So they need somebody, pet parents and especially that care, need somebody to help them feed better the life of the pet.
Yeah. Have you like with social media, I feel like it's changing with, the ingredients in pet food. Have you seen the big brand food distributors kind of changing the way they make food, or
So
is
what
it?
you have, and I like to tell customers that basically you have companies that do commercials and Super Bowl commercials, and they spend the money on the bag in the commercials, not in the bag. Whereas you have a lot of smaller brands out there now that are very innovative, that are focused on quality, that are focused on appropriateness. Because not only is a lot of pet food junk, but it's not even appropriate. They shouldn't even eat something in that form, right? So now you have brands out there to do that, but they don't rely on commercial. They don't have those $100 million budgets. So what they rely on is me and my staff to teach the consumer, right? So you have plenty of companies out there now that are doing the right things. There's not a lot of the big ones, but what you see the bigger ones doing is starting to speak the language of what the consumer wants to hear, but not necessarily living up to it with the actual product.
Yeah. Well, I think we're almost out of time. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to share your social medias for whoever is listening today?
So the Pet in Mind is the brand, and that's all one word, exactly like it sounds, PETNMIND. If you want more information on the franchise opportunity, it's buyapetfranchise.com, just like it sounds, buyapetfranchise.com. You can find out information there and get in touch with us. And then my social, I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and it's Emotional Pet Guy, just like it sounds, Emotional Pet Guy, P-E-T Guy. It's my social, and reach out. We would love to talk. I coach. I also speak as well as about mindset and about different topics of pets and how they fit into our lives and benefit us. But I appreciate you guys allowing me to jump on. Professor Pullman's a good friend, so anytime I can help, I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too.